It always depends, especially the length of the DPIA, because for some processing operations that are fairly small but could still be high risk, it's very well possible that you can be done with a two-page description and one page of risk mitigations, and have it documented and move forward. For others, especially where lots of technology is involved, it could be hundreds of pages easily because you
Yeah.
want all the technical descriptions to be included. But before going into that detail, you mentioned indeed the 9 criteria that we see on screen. Those are specifically related to the European style data protection impact assessment. This is guidance
Yes.
from the supervisory authority, what constitutes the high risk threshold when the DPIA becomes mandatory. So
Right.
that already applies that you first need to do a threshold assessment, because you need to understand, am I meeting that bar of is this a high risk processing operation or not? According to the supervisory authorities, if you can tick 2 out of the 9 that you see here, then in any case it's high risk. If it's one of the 9, then it also really depends on the size of the data set. So if it is a very large volume of personal data, and it is sensitive data, but you don't do anything of the others, then still, well, then you already have the large scale data set. But if you only do systemic monitoring, but you do systemic monitoring at a very particular location, say you do systemic monitoring at the entrance of a prime minister's office, that could be very sensitive, or at the intelligence agency. So in those situations, probably you will want to do an impact assessment as well. So for all of these, evaluation or scoring, which includes profiling, automated decision making with large effects, systemic monitoring, special categories of data, so anything from genetic and biometric data to sexuality to trade union membership or religion, all those kind of things. Large scale data sets, we can't put numbers on that because all the guidance on that was withdrawn. Matching or combining data sets. So also if you acquire a data set, say from a marketing agency that you want to
Right.
use for lead generation, also that would be subject to a DPIA. Vulnerable data subjects, for example, if we talk about children's data, new technology, and that is not new technology in the world, but new technology for you as an
You.
organization. And then also when individuals can no longer exercise their rights because of the way the technology is set up. And that, in my view, typically also links back to a form of automated decision making, or where people are not aware that their data is
Right.
being processed. So in all of those situations, you need to go the long way. And then you need to take all of these steps that you see on screen. So indeed, you need to describe what you're processing. That could be a reference to your ROPA. You need to talk about the necessity and the proportionality of all the data that you would be using. How are you going to demonstrate compliance? So that links back to the accountability and the policies and procedures that you have already put in place. And then the difficult part starts, because then you need to come up with new things, and that is documenting what are the risks to the rights and freedoms of the individuals whose personal data you are processing. So you really need to change your mindset from the company perspective to, hey, now I'm the individual. And then how I'm also going to mitigate the risks to the individual. Now, it can be that you think, well, this is so many users that we are talking about, and such a diverse group of users, it might actually be useful to get user input. GDPR says that if you consider that it's necessary, you should also consult with representatives of consumer groups or of user groups, to make sure that that is all done. And then you need to start mitigating those risks. So all of that is documented. There is one thing that a lot of organizations here in the EU actually often forget. If you get to the point where you start mitigating the risk, but you come to the conclusion, I'm not able to mitigate everything, I have a residual risk, you need to go to the Data Protection Authority for a conversation on what they consider to be a best practice. You need to do a prior consultation. And that takes time, because DPAs are backlogged. So it can easily take a few years for them to be able to make time for you for such a conversation. So you better make sure that you're able yourself to actually mitigate all those risks, because otherwise your project will be seriously delayed.